Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 10th episode of the Music Mentality Podcast. We just established that. I don't know why I had to think about it. It is episode 10, and we are here with Bryan, with Jonathan, and with a guest. I guess we introduced the guest before we move on to anything. I think that's how it goes.
Hello.
Yourself. Who are you?
Hi. My name is Sarah Bryan. I'm a piano performance major. Yeah, that's pretty much my entire life. It's like my name and then what I do. But what do you want to know?
What's your musical background?
Okay, well, so basically I started piano when I was like 9. And then I didn't really take it seriously until I was about 14. And then whenever I was 14, I really started getting into competitions and festivals and basically competing and performing several times a year. And then I graduated high school, switched teachers, and went to college. And then I've done one competition since then. And right now I'm kind of in the process of just transferring from the current college that I'm at right now and then going to a university. So that's kind of like where I'm sitting at the moment. Just kind of, it's sort of been a chill college music career, but also it hasn't been. So, yeah.
So you have your associates in music already or no?
Yes, I do. I got it in May of last year. Right.
Gotcha. And you have just finished auditions, is that correct?
Actually, I finished 2 of them. I do a third one next weekend, or actually this weekend, and then I do 2 in March. Wait, hang on. No, I actually have 4. Yeah, never mind. I've done 2. I have a third one coming up, and then 3 more.
That is a lot of auditions.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that once we get into the meat and potatoes and stuff. My name is Jacob. You guys all know me. I'm not qualified to host this show. I just like talking about music, and so that's what we're doing. So let's do our typical thing and go around the circle. Should I roll the dice, Jonathan, or actually let you and the mop go first?
Oh, the mop. You can let me go first. It's okay. And
Jonathan, what have you been listening to these past several weeks? What's been on your radar?
Okay. Well, I mean, it's been many weeks, but I have only one new playlist. And it's norteñas and rancheras. So I listened to some Vicente Fernandez. I don't really know. I did a jog and I listened to the same album over and over, which is Sarah Bareilles, which is not surprising. And I was listening to reggaeton the other day. I'm a beaner.
Oh yeah, we know.
I feel like every episode you say that and you give us the same answers of what you've been listening to. The problem is, I think host Sway was the only one who actually knew what the music was that you're talking about. Because
really?
I don't know any of this music. Like I'm as white as you can get. I don't know this music at all.
Yeah.
Bryan speaks some Spanish.
I was raised in northern Mexico, so.
What?
What?
You're lying. He's such a liar.
Yeah.
He's a werewolf.
Yeah, he's
South Texas.
You look like you were raised in Canada or something.
I sound like it too.
But yeah, that's all I've listened to.
I wish I had interesting things to say about that, but because I didn't understand half the words that you said, I really have no accurate reply.
Well, in my defense, I never think musically about it. I just listen to it. So.
It's just like background music.
No, I feel it too.
Oh, okay. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. This is not the classical music mentality podcast. This is any music,
Yeah.
anything,
Like-
everything.
Whenever you listen to Mexican music, you don't start sad. It makes you sad.
Ah,
Oh man. But like the thing is, because I don't speak Spanish and I always think I'll be listening to what's considered a sad song, like a sad Mexican song. And then it's like everyone else around me is crying. And I'm like, they're like,
It's
"Stop."
boom, ding, diggy, boom, ding, ding, boom,
Yeah.
ding, diggy, boom, ding, ding, is
Adios, amor.
Oh yeah, that actually
me
that's
quiero.
Mm,
I
Wow,
feel
Bryan,
like
that sounded good actually.
Yeah.
You should start singing, Bryan. That was nice.
I've heard these things before.
y'all, we should start a band.
hmm
We would need a percussionist who left the show. So
Shots.
Was fired from the
that's
show.
right. He was fired for always drumming or something.
Always having long curly hair.
Who's next? It's
Hey, I have
Wait,
long
wait,
curly hair.
yeah. What are you, Bryan? What is happening right now?
Yeah. Hey.
Gunning for you.
Bryan, what have you been listening to this week?
I have been listening to my preparation for the content exam. On the content exam, to be a teacher, you have to be able to pass all the music-specific curricula off. And a lot of that involves Indonesian gamelan music and
Oh.
just strange music. And you have to know several instruments from every country pretty much. And so, yeah, I've been doing some of the prep for that. And when I'm not listening to world music and crap like that, cramming for the content exam, which I passed my practice. So I'm set to take the real thing. Bill Evans and Miles.
Nice.
And also Jim Hall, who's a great jazz guitar player playing with Bill Evans. And for anyone who doesn't know, Bill Evans is the king of the jazz piano sound.
Yeah.
And there's a big change that happens after the album Undercurrent, where Jim Hall works in a duo with Bill Evans, and forever his approach is different to comping. And it's much more planing and much less stepwise harmony and like diatonic voice leading. And it starts to take on a really colorful approach.
Wow.
You can tell which one of those two things I'm more excited about, right?
For sure. But it's funny because the thing I wanted to reply to was the thing that you're not excited about.
The content.
So this content exam, is this for the music ed degree?
Yeah.
And it's just part of the degree, is that right? Or part of the full exam?
It's part of the certification.
Right.
You have to pass 2 exams. One is basically telling you don't racially profile people and it's called the PPR, right? And the other one is music. And you have to know at least some general music history and some listening to be able to be a music professional. So
do they give you like a list of things to listen to like music history classes typically do? Or
exactly.
Okay, gotcha. So it's just another music history class. It's odd that it's not like the standard stuff you would hear in music history. But
Yeah, it's spread all over. And also on the content exam, there's all kinds of questions about clarinet alternate fingerings and finting and
Only
all
professionals
kinds of
know that.
pedagogical stuff.
that's so interesting because so
Wow.
is this test is for any education level in the music in Texas, right?
Choral or instrumental.
Oh, dude, choral people don't know this stuff. Choral people don't have to take these classes. They know nothing about instruments. I was in a woodwind method class, and I was the only vocalist, and that's because I'm a composition major. All the vocalists are in like this really basic version of the class that teaches you nothing. That's so interesting. And then if they get the ed degree, right, then they just have the certification regardless. So it's interesting that the test is actually more difficult on information for them. Wait. Is this the test that you have to take at the end of your degree?
One of the two.
Oh, I don't even know how this works then. Choral people should not be passing this.
They tend not to.
Okay, well, I have no problem calling them out. I'm in the choral world. I'm a vocal major. They should not be passing. They don't know alternate fingerings for clarinet. I could barely do my 2-octave scale on clarinet with one set of fingerings. Like, that is hard stuff.
Jeez.
The Bane fingerings.
I wonder y'all have a bad rep, Jacob.
I'm sorry.
Vocalists have such a bad rep.
Well, you know, I don't consider myself a vocalist because I'm a bass
Well,
player first.
because, yeah. I mean, I don't view you as a vocalist. I see you playing bass.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're welcome.
that. I don't
You're
want
welcome.
to be seen as a vocalist.
A vocalist, leave the chat.
Yeah. Oh, I hope people from my choir don't watch this.
Don't worry, they don't.
Got him. All right.
All right. So,
The self-burn right there. That was a rare.
awesome. Yeah. What have you been listening to?
So right now I've been listening to a lot of Rachmaninoff, specifically his cello sonata, the second and third movements. But like on the flip-flop, I listen to a lot of old rock. So like the Eagles will come right after I listen to the cello sonata, and then I'll just like go, you know, Beethoven and then maybe Queen. But yeah, so it's been kind of a mix between the two, is like classical music or romantic and then old rock. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Second and third movements. I hear that
Yes.
all the time. Nobody's listening to multi-movement symphonic pieces. It's like, I like the Allegro vivace. I just want to jam the, you know.
Yeah. Well,
the
see,
uppity.
I think, and it's not that the first and fourth movements aren't bad. It's just, I don't know, because I was actually I was a page turner at this pianist's recital, and she was playing the cello sonata with this Korean American cellist. And I was just like, I was kind of right there, you know, right next to the pianist, you know, turning pages. So it's like, I get to see full on what's going on. And I don't know, I really love both movements because it's so Rachmaninoff. And I don't know, like if you ever have a chance, like go listen to it several times, because you find something out every single time you listen to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, I'll say page turning is terrifying. So
It
good
is.
for you for page
Yeah.
turning Rachmaninoff. That is so much pressure.
It was a Rachmaninoff cello sonata and then a Chopin cello sonata. They closed with the Rachmaninoff, but they opened with the Chopin. And I was sitting like stick straight the entire time. And by the end of it, I was exhausted, and I'm only the page turner. It's like, I can't imagine what they're going through.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is terrifying.
You know, I think that's actually the first time on this podcast we have even used the name Rachmaninoff. And of course, it's a pianist that we bring in who says Rachmaninoff. I'm like, that's, of course.
Hey.
Jazz musicians don't talk about Rachmaninoff.
No, and it's sad. It's sad because I'm in jazz, but I'm not a jazz pianist.
You've been doing
What
a
does
lot of
that
jazz
even
stuff,
mean?
right?
Mm-hmm. What?
I wonder what that even means.
Yeah.
I'm not a jazz guitarist, not a jazz pianist. It's like,
Like,
wonder
it's just
what that means.
not my
You don't gotta
focus.
generalize, you know? You're
Oh
just
my
you,
gosh.
you know?
True.
I'm not a musician.
Now, I feel like if you're marketing yourself, you got to generalize a little bit. If you just say you're a pianist and someone's like, great, I
Yeah.
have this big band
Okay.
gig. Can you sight read these 30 charts or whatever? It's like,
Yeah, it's
Well,
like,
yeah.
no.
you know,
I'm
probably
a
not.
And take
Pianist.
solos over them, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh
Yikes.
gosh, no.
Giant steps in all
Gosh.
45 keys or whatever.
Absolutely not.
You know.
Mm,
We are going to attempt Caravan now.
Cool.
The original arrangement
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
Whiplash one that everyone does?
I don't know. They're both
Not
hard.
the Whiplash one, I hope.
Yeah, most people, it's funny. Whiplash caused a lot of people to like come in and play Caravan like the Whiplash version, but that's not what's actually like in the chart, because that was
Right.
whoever it was, Josh Hurwitz or something, whoever arranged it.
I'd like to plug Wes Montgomery on his album Bumpin' on Sunset. They do Caravan, and he is just killing it. Just killing it.
West Montgomery.
And he
I'll
plays
put
with
it
his
on a
thumb.
playlist. I'll make a playlist called Bryan
Yeah.
Story
Suggests.
about that too. Wes Montgomery, he's the guy known for playing with his thumb. And apparently he developed that because his neighbors would complain when he practiced after work in the late evenings. So he started playing as gently as he could. And then when he hooked into an amplifier, he was still channeling that bedroom thing on stage.
So it's my understanding that that's how electric bass was originally played, was with the thumb, right? And that's why you see still to this day the vintage look of, like, look at our Fender Jazz bass or whatever. They have this little like notch of wood on the bottom underneath the strings. Everyone's like, what's that? And it's not a thumb rest, it's a finger rest, because they would play with the thumb, so their fingers would rest there, as opposed to bass players nowadays who rest their thumb and then use their fingers to play. And obviously we know that fingers are more efficient in many different ways. But then thumb technique, I guess, technically has now developed into double thumbing and stuff, which can get ridiculously fast. I've seen people, Evan Brewer specifically, play death metal tremolo speed stuff, double thumbing it, right? So doesn't matter.
What a bass nerd.
I'm sorry. Hey, I like bass.
Mr. Bass Nerd. What have you been jamming to?
All right. Yeah. So I always say that I don't listen to music, and it's weird, right? I don't listen to music, but the things that I have been listening to are because school just started, and I passed my big voice barrier last semester. So this semester in voice, thank you. This semester in voice is basically super lax because it's my last semester for my degree. I can basically do whatever I want. And I was like, okay, well, I'm so tired of singing arias, right? Let me like try some jazz or musical theater or something else, right? And so I went and listened to a bunch of different stuff, some Gershwin and Cole Porter because I love both of them. But then I went into the musical theater realm, and I was like, well, what musical theater can I sing? And that's such a struggle because I'm a bass too, right? And there just aren't basses in musical theater, right? It's just not really a thing. But what I did find was the Jekyll and Hyde musical, and I listened to that a bit, and that's actually super tight. And so that's the only notable thing I'm going to say I've been listening to. I mean, I listen to Gershwin and Porter and stuff, but that's pretty standard. I mean, Anything Goes is like one of my favorite musical albums of all time, right? That's like standard Porter. So I'm going to say I've been listening to Jekyll and Hyde. And here's the embarrassing part. I couldn't tell you who composed that.
Shame on you.
I have no idea now that I think about it off the top of my head.
Who composed Jekyll and Hyde?
Yeah. All I know is that Jekyll, or Hyde, I guess, both of them, is a baritone. And he's like the lead. So I'm like, all right, well, I can sing, and he goes down to like G's and F sharps, I think, or something. So I'm like, well, it's not the bottom of my range, but at least it's somewhere lower.
It says it was originally conceived for the stage by Frank Wildhorn and Steve Kuden. Features music by Frank Wildhorn. After a world premiere run in Houston.
Yep, that's right.
The musical embarked on a national tour. Nice.
Dang, so he's repping H-Town. That's why Jacob's doing it.
Well, that's it. Yeah, H-Town. I'm in Arlington, but H-Town.
He's so low.
A-Town.
A-Town, that's right. All right, let's just do a little quick the next thing. What have you been working? What's the most recent thing you've been working on, Jonathan? Musically, last time I know you said you've been working on reading classical jazz or classical stuff, right?
Yeah. I guess that kind of faded out.
Great.
Quickly. I think the last thing I did was that like little norteña little sax lick put onto Facebook for like a day. That's maybe like the last thing I did.
Gotcha.
But I mean, like I whistle a lot.
I love that you're here because it's like you have 3 music nerds and then you're just like a comic relief.
Dude, the fact that you just called him like not a musician on air. Oh my gosh. Sarah.
Wow, I take offense to
nerd.
That. What makes you a
Okay,
musician?
no,
She was like, I
okay.
love that we brought someone who's not a musician onto this podcast.
That's
It's
rude.
so
No.
cute and adorable that he's just a comic relief here.
I haven't even
Oh.
whatever.
Oh.
Go on. I can't. Nah,
Wait, Jonathan, here's the real question. Did you delete that from your Facebook?
No, I just did it where it's like what you did that day. It's like a Snapchat for Facebook.
The stories? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Dang
Yeah.
it. I was going to play it on air, but I guess I can't now.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's hear some of your whistling skills before we move on.
Let's do it.
What do you want to hear?
My Bonnie sailed over the ocean.
How does it go?
Okay, give me a Hispanic tune or something. Okay.
I can't smile when I'm laughing. I can't smile when I'm laughing.
Bro.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You got like vibrato and stuff. That's nice.
Well, I'm Mexican, bro. What you think? There's not gonna be vibrato?
Honestly, whistling to me is like a tall, slender white woman thing, not a Mexican thing.
Well, no, that's too far.
You know, like
Thanks.
a 35-year-old woman who's like going for a modeling thing. And it's like her secret talent or whatever. She can whistle really well. That's what whistling is to me.
It's like Malcolm in the Middle.
Like
Have you
Miss
seen that
America.
episode?
Yes. I think
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was referencing.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Brain. What have you been working on? Last time you said speed. Is speed a thing?
Speed is a thing, and I'm going to do a plug real quick. Marshall Harrison on April 2nd has a masterclass at College of the Mainland in Texas City.
Yeah.
And he's an MI graduate who is one of the fastest players I know. And it's specifically going to be on hybrid and sweep picking. That's just nerd stuff, right?
Right.
But this week, no, I haven't been working speed that much. I've been working on 4 movements of a Robert Devise lute suite.
Oh.
And it's a Baroque lute suite. And what I'm really trying to parse out is how much rubato is appropriate for the performer to just do in Baroque lute music. And there's trills, and apparently French Baroque trills have a certain mannerism. It's not like the note in the note beneath it, like a T do type of trill. It's like a do re. You know, they trill above, and it says in the performance notes here, Baroque trills should start on the note above
Yeah.
the target.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really trying to figure out how to make it not sound so metronomic and get some rubato in and to pull the trills off the right way.
That's what they want for the trills?
Yeah.
Really? Rubato?
No. Those are 2 separate concepts I'm bringing into this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And also, here's the last thing I'm trying to parse out is that a lot of the time, the first time through, you don't do the ornaments. Then the second pass, you start to play with rubato, play with ornamentation. So I'm trying to like work with my teacher, and he really wants me to just interpret it and not give me
that's
a guide.
basically what you do.
Yeah, so I'm spending a lot of time with that.
I think, isn't that like, so the ornamentation in Baroque music, obviously we know it was used a little bit to compensate for lack of dynamics and stuff like that, but also it's kind of just like the pop music of today, right? Where someone's like singing a melody and then they do a big old run all over it, right? Isn't that basically the same thing? So, I mean, those trills and stuff weren't necessarily even ever written in. Someone just transcribed them additionally. So I would say be super chill about it. I would enjoy that and play it like a pop song, even like improvise on it. You know, that's what I would do. It's interesting the trill thing. As a composer, I've always struggled with how to indicate is the trill going up or the trill going down, right? And I've never found an actual symbol that means trill going down, because technically it means going up.
Yeah,
right?
Up the half step.
And then you can put like you can put the natural or the flat or the sharp or whatever to indicate what note you're actually trilling to. But it's interesting how they're saying that in the French music, it goes down naturally. And it's like, what should I do? Put like FRTR? So like French trill, so they know to go down or something, right? Why is there not a universal symbol for this?
Yeah, and you know, someone who was in this time would have interpreted that with no difficulty.
I love that you just said that's what I've been working with, and that's all I got on air because my audio driver freaking thing cut out again. Can one of you speak real quick? Dang it. It's not picking it up. I'm going to restart the stream. Give me 2 seconds and restart the call. Give me, actually, 25 seconds. And we're back. Native Instruments, if you could personally message me about this audio interface that decides to crash every single stream, that would be great. Thanks. This is your 2019 Mark II model, so it shouldn't be doing this. Thank you.
Nope.
I'm going to get roasted by them because I've called them out twice now. Fortunately, we're all in our original positions now. Brain is to my right, Jonathan's in the bottom right, and Sarah Bryan is in the bottom left. Brain just got finished talking about something.
Baroque trill.
Yeah.
God.
Baroque trills, yes. And that's what he's been working on and trying to really dig into that. Actually, well, I'll move that on my topic, but go ahead, Brain.
Okay, I want to piggyback you. So all this is for my recital, right? And you were talking about musical theater. And I routinely cannot stand musicals. I feel like I'm a hostage, right? And the things going on, and there's all these songs, and only a couple of them are good. But I was looking at all my recital jazz possibilities, and they're all from musical theater. Get this. Summertime, Porgy and Bess.
Yep.
If I Only Had a Brain, Wizard of Oz, Pure Imagination, Willy Wonka, When You Wish Upon a Star, Someday My Prince Will Come, My Favorite Things, Over the Rainbow. I mean, all these songs are real good, and they're all from music theater.
Wow.
But I don't like any of the musicals as a whole because I just can't sit that long, you know?
That's hilarious.
I
think the only musical theater, I mean, so I've never seen Anything Goes, like I mentioned earlier. I just have like listened to the music, and there's other stuff that I've listened to the music to before. But the one that I like pretty much every song on, and the whole story that really gets me is Dear Evan Hansen, and I've talked about that before. Dear Evan Hansen is totally bomb, and there's not a moment that I don't love about that whole thing.
Really?
And I would rather watch and listen to musical theater than opera. 100% hate opera, everything about opera. I don't think there's a single opera that I like. Musical theater is just American opera, and there's no difference. And if you tell me that there's a difference, we're going to have a problem. Okay? They're
Free
the same
car.
thing. All right, there's my rant.
Did we
No, I
ever
feel
figure
you.
out the death of Anton Webern? What is that about? And is it Webern?
No. Yeah, I have no idea. So what? For reference, I had messaged Bryan at some point about I was looking at grad schools and composers who were at the grad schools, and there was a composer who had written an opera in the 80s or something, and the opera was called The Death of Anton Webern. And apparently it won some awards and this and that, and I'm like, I would love to watch a whole opera about Webern, right?
Oh my gosh.
But composers from that era don't have anything of theirs online. You can't listen to it, you can't see the score, you can't see anything. All I know is that there's a title, that there was an opera at some point called The Death of Anton Webern. So no, I have no idea. I don't know anything about it, Bryan. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I still guess that it's a cutesy little Gershwin type of musical and has no Webernisms whatsoever.
You know, speaking of that, actually, so when I was listening to Gershwin and Porter, I was looking for some Gershwin to sing, and you know, there's like problems with singing Porgy and Bess and stuff, even though I've like learned those songs before, because there's like, you know, some people will find racial insensitivity towards that or whatever. And so I was looking for something else, and I found this piece by Gershwin, and maybe some of you know it. It's either from a musical theater or from an opera or something, and it's called By Strauss. Is anyone familiar with this piece?
Mm-mm.
So there's a song that Gershwin wrote called By Strauss, and the vocal line that I'm gonna sing it, but the vocal line is basically saying, "Do away with Broadway. Broadway sucks. I don't like Cole Porter. I don't like Gershwin. I don't like all these people." He name drops himself in his own piece and stuff, and then he's like, "Bring me back the rum pum pums of Strauss and this and that of Strauss. Give me Deflate a Mouse or whatever it is, that opera, right?" And so basically, it's a song of making fun of the snooty people who don't like Broadway by Gershwin.
Nice.
Super cool.
Oh, it was sarcasm.
I mean, I assume because actually, I think the Gershwin line is Gershwin's always tapping on that tin, and it's like a funny reference to Tin Pan Alley, right?
Oh.
Music jokes that no one else on the planet will get.
I love that.
That's not funny. All right, Sarah Bryan, what have you been working on?
Like
Oh my god. Well, I've been working on actually two different things, and well, the first one is kind of more up my alley. It's I've been working on a Chopin ballade, the fourth one specifically, which is kind of a beast, like pinnacle of romantic music right there. It's a 10-minute to 15-minute piece, but it's just like, it's so far out there from what I've ever done before, because I've never played anything this big before. You know, piano concertos, you can do concertos like, you know, with trumpet and flute, like when you're kind of at a collegiate level, but piano concertos are something that you need to be like really kind of, you just have to be on your game to play a piano concerto if you're a serious pianist. And like for me, this ballade is kind of the equivalent of starting a piano concerto. So I'm really intimidated by it, but like I need to approach it kind of with like that, like the respect that it deserves, but like I know I can do it as a pianist. So that's kind of been a huge musical challenge for me, is just, and technically too, it's enormous. And so there's so many different things about it that, you know, technically and musically are just not out of my league, but something I haven't tapped into yet. So I'm working on that. And then I'm also kind of polishing up some rep for auditions. So I'm working on Bach's First Partita. I've pretty much got everything memorized except one of the movements. And then I'll be starting on Debussy, L'Île Joyeuse, and a couple of Chopin etudes. But that's kind of like what I've been doing classically. There's something else that I've been working on that hasn't really reached the limelight yet, and I've been it's still kind of brain. It's still evolving. And I actually just started on it today. But I'm composing a piece, and it's going to be electronic with 2 live instruments, clarinet and cello. And it's based on the idea of addiction. So addiction to drugs, alcohol, and then, sex. And we could go off on a tangent about, okay. Right. And
it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Bryan.
Yeah. Well, so what I've been for the recorded part, what I'm doing is I'm interviewing people, and I'm asking them, what is your addiction? How has it affected you mentally, physically? How has it affected people around you? And what I'm doing is I'm going to take this recording or these multiple recordings and put them all together. And then, that's kind of the recorded part that's the electronic part of the piece. And right now I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 different stories that I'm working on. And this is like all based on a true story or true stories. And I have a recording of someone who was like, he wasn't really taking my question seriously. So he was telling me about his addiction, and at the very end he laughed. And I was like, no, this is perfect. Like, I need to keep this, because his laugh actually, it kind of arpeggiates upward, and there's specific pitches, and it's like very rhythmic. And so I kind of spliced that, and I got like that little sample, and I'm dubbing it over one of his other quotes. He said he had a bad cocaine problem. And so I took bad cocaine problem, and I'm putting that laugh over it. And so what I'm going to do is, once I get all these other recordings, I'm going to have that laugh kind of be interjected at certain points, just to kind of tie it all together. Because addiction, like the common thread between all addictions is it's addiction. You can't get enough of it. It's unhealthy for you. And but whenever you're addicted, you don't really see it through the eyes of someone who sees it as unhealthy. It's just something that is a part of you, So that's that. And then the cello part, I was actually talking with an old friend about the like compositional techniques that I can do for clarinet and cello, because I want it to be more accompaniment to the story rather than kind of it overwriting the story. So it's going to be like background effects. But that's what I'm working on right now. So yeah, I'm really excited.
You're the only person doing
all
something.
Right. I'll take so all right. So I'm going to jump all over this because I like composition. So we're going to talk about this. Is it going to be performed live, or is it fully electronic? So you're going to record, or what?
So it will be performed live, but the recording part will be like on a speaker, and then 2 instruments playing live.
So it's like mixed media.
Yeah,
it's kind of like different trains and Black Angels.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you want accompaniment more so for the cello and the clarinet?
Yeah, well, so yeah, pretty much. I mean, clarinet is going to kind of be the main instrument here. The cello is going to be, in order of importance, the cello is going to be number 3. It's going to go recording, clarinet, cello. And cello is just going to be, I want my cellist to play more like long tones. At the end, it's going to be the dies irae. I kind of made that decision because I was like, eventually these addictions are like, they're killing you slowly, And so at the end, have that Gregorian chant dies irae all played out in the cello part, and then have my have my clarinet person like a little more free form, like he's able to kind of do whatever he wants, whatever he interprets. If you have an addiction to drugs, I asked him, what do you think whenever you imagine, or what do you imagine whenever you hear about someone who has an addiction to drugs? And it was like itching, right? And so I said, okay, look, see if you can portray that in your part. And so
that's super cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've never composed one, and I've never worked with like I'm not tech savvy at all. So this is a really new experience.
So my first question then, for performing it live, obviously if you're like recording it directly into a software, it would be a lot easier, but recording it live, are you going to have in the score timestamps for the recorded track, or how are you going to go about that for the performers?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I asked one of my performers what would be easy for him, because you know, it's all about when they're able to kind of pick up when to play. And he said it's all about the cues. Like, as long as he has good cues notated in, then it should be fine. But I'm still trying to figure out, like, how am I going to notate the instrumental part in order to how am I going to notate the instrumental part? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to get it to where they kind of flow easily. What?
Oh, I was not trying to cut you off. Go on. So, on that note, there's a composer out of Harvard named Max Vanetz who wrote a piece called Here, and it's mixed media. It's experimental extended techniques for flute and guitar live against a pre-recorded track. Mm-hmm. And what he did was he provided us with click track and music. So we're reading music, and it's so easy for us. And the sounds in the background, just enter it whatever time you stamp them in at, right?
Really?
Bar 32, beat 3.5, and they'll just line up.
Okay.
But that requires someone to run the click track to the performer and to really make sure the levels are even between the recording and the live performers. But I'm thinking about doing it on my recital, because it's one of the most far out pieces. I have to plug it. Here by Max Vanetz. It is so far out, but the whole time the performer's hearing click.
Oh.
And the job for us is so easy. But then you have to do all the work.
Yeah.
So
that would actually, I think that'd be really straightforward.
Yeah,
that would be really easy to do in a software. I mean, first of all, you'd be doing all the editing in a audio workstation anyway. Then all you have to do is export a click track, and for the click track, that would be super easy. That's not even that much work for you either. Brilliant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you can manage them having in-ears that's hooked up to the audio setup. That would be the most difficult part, is having a place where you can have in-ears connected to a board. Right, so you would need a wireless in-ear pack, or you would need to go directly into the board that's playing out into the house. So that would be the hardest setup for that.
And we used over-the-ear phones direct to the board.
Wow.
And it worked immaculately.
Wow. Okay.
That's
a really
Puppy
good
basically
concept.
does that for their whole audience, right? Snarky Puppy Live, isn't everyone wearing headphones, right? Instead of so they have like a more studio mix.
There is no acoustic contamination.
Wow.
Look at their concerts. They're all like nice headphones. They're all like basically these Audio Technicas, I think, that they're all wearing.
Cool.
That was not, I realized that came out like a brag or something. These are not actually that nice of headphones. But the point is that they're like $150 headphones, and there's like 200 people in the audience, and they provided headphones for all of them.
Wow.
That's a lot of money, you know? So
that's a lot of trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Jacob.
Hello.
You've been playing anything?
Have I been playing anything? No. So, I mean, I have my weekly church gig, which, is nice. That's the only time I actually play music these days. But as far as like what I've been working on, so school started, obviously, and I think I started like a week after everyone else. I don't know why. But somehow I had this giant front load of work to do, and I was like, man, this is my last semester, and I'm taking one less class than last semester, and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. So I had this giant workload, but these past 3 days, I've been doing so much. And so, short little plug for myself, if you haven't heard, but you probably have heard if you're on this channel in the first place, I've started a composition competition. It is now on YouTube, the whole episode. It went great. If you want to participate, let me know. There's money involved. Boom. So I did that. I finished up. I think last time we talked about. Did we talk about me finishing Motion Sickness last episode?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that's lame. So I've started. Compositionally, I've started 2 new pieces. I'm still working on digital Dungeons and Dragons campaign music for someone who specifically commissioned that from me. And then this semester, my main project is a giant project, basically. Instead of doing multiple compositions, my goal is to fully orchestrate like a 20-minute work and from beginning to end, and that's what I'm going to do throughout the whole semester. I'm doing a band piece, and actually I don't have it with me right now, but I've selected the movements, I've outlined the form, I know exactly what I'm doing. I have not written a single note yet, but having all the forms and everything is actually most of the work. It'll be pretty straightforward from that point, and it'll be about 20 minutes just band, and actually band to voices at the end. The performers will, as they put down their horns in the last movement, they will start singing notes, and it will end with kind of a choir sound, except band people can't sing, so ideally we'll just get them to be in tune, right? That's the plan. Instead of actually bringing in a choir to sing that stuff. So it's going to be the band singing. And this is a technique that several other composers have done in the past, and it works super well. Other than that, I've started percussion methods. So like little buzz rolls and stuff. I'm like, wow, this is really difficult. Never played percussion. It's really difficult to get like a proper, like a buzz and stuff going. Yeah, I think that's the most of what I've got going on. Lots of composer stuff. Big announcement. Ex Nihilo, which is a piece that I've talked about on the stream before for choir, piano, cello, and double bass, is now going to be performed at the SCI National Conference here at UTA in March.
Wow.
So that's a big deal.
Yay. Applause. The crowd goes wild.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. There's going to be a bunch of different composers there and stuff. And and other than that, I'm just waiting for grad school stuff. I have to, sight read 4-part Bach chorale stuff for a theory assistantship test,
Yuck.
which is not something I feel comfortable doing. So we'll see how that goes. And that's what I've been working on.
Bach chorales are really hard to sight read, like even as a pianist.
I'm so glad you said that. That makes me feel so much better, honestly.
Well, I'm serious. I did an audition last year, and one of the women that was in the audition room with me, she said, okay, here, can you read this Bach chorale? And so, I read it down, and she gave me tips. She said, it's really difficult to read Bach chorales. And the thing is, like, the trick is to find the perfect fingering. And because every Bach chorale it has a different like technique. And so when you discover what that technique is, it could make your life a little bit easier. But like, yeah, my teacher right now even says like Bach chorales are really hard. They're hard sight reading wise. Like I don't practice reading Bach chorales. I do practice like 4-part church hymns that are not as intense as a Bach chorale, but eventually I want to get to that point where I can read a Bach chorale, pretty well, but I'm kind of starting off with just the church hymns. But yeah. So
right. And so I'm thinking they only want this to show that I can like read piano music. So for a part writing class or theory part writing, I can just, clunk my way through the chords of what they wrote and show them, hey, you have a double leading tone or whatever in this chord and it sounds bad, right? I don't think they want me to actually like be a good pianist here. And if it's really, it's high level Bach chorale stuff, well, rip. But hopefully I'll do it well on everything else, which is like theory stuff, like teaching dominant sevens and stuff. Go, Brain.
Yeah.
All right. I am off to a cool semester, and a little backstory. I had a bad taste in my mouth about one of my professors here at SFA because I caught 2 kids cheating, and I'm going to admit right now, I emailed the instructor and said, there are 2 kids cheating on the music they're about to bring to you. And anyway, the only response I got back was actually, shame on you for emailing and texting in class. That's disruptive to your instructor. You know, I can't imagine having to teach while kids are blatantly emailing in my class. And I was upset that no one addressed the cheating, and I wrote a scathing email back and got no response. That was the end of that. This semester, I've arrived in that professor's class, that doctor's class, and they teach my form and analysis, right? And I actually have the utmost respect for this professor because they can talk about it, break it down, then go straight to the piano and play through it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter who it is, what time period, how many voices there are, and I really respect someone who can clunk their way through something after talking about it, writing it on the board, because really that's the way that makes the most sense to people, is hearing it, you know? And yeah, that was a unique experience. And when you mentioned clunking through students' work, I have a teacher now who does that. And because of that whole backstory, I had the wrong impression, but now I've thrown that away. I have a lot of respect for a teacher who can play it and describe it, right? Then teach it.
For sure. It's funny that you mentioned that because I've only had this professor once, this professor who is a doctor once, and it was one of my favorite classes, which happened to be form and analysis. And same thing, this professor, straight up, like, we were analyzing pretty difficult music, and he was like, all right, let's see if I can read this. And he just, like, sight reading through it on the piano. And I'm like, did you rehearse this, or have you taught this class for so long that they're all the pieces are just in your fingers still, right? And, like, they were not easy pieces, but I'm like, all right, you know, that was awesome. As opposed to another professor I've had who teaches another course that I won't even mention, has a little bit more difficult with the piano, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really have a problem with it. It's funny, you say, well, the piano, hearing it makes more sense. I've never had a problem with that, and I recognize that I am the exception because I see music from a very pencil and paper standpoint. I don't need to hear things to comprehend them, right? In fact, hearing things might throw me off even more. So yeah. Okay, random question though on that. Were you in the class where they cheated when you sent the message?
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
No.
Yeah.
All right. To be very clear, I was in the class right before that class.
Okay.
And I saw them cheating on an assignment, and they're in the same fraternity, and that's just kind of a thing that happens, right? And so, no, I emailed a teacher I didn't even have yet about this. And I responded scathingly after I got the shame on you, Bryan. Like, shame on me? What did I do?
This is a weird moral area, and I know me and you, Bryan, specifically, I will not mention any details, but I know me and you, Bryan, have experienced this before in a situation, and basically similar thing, nothing ever came of it, right?
Yeah.
And so now I feel like I don't even know how to approach those situations because I will just straight up say it. I've seen people cheating and have just never said anything about it, you know, like blatantly cheating directly in front of me, groups of students on tests, like working together. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't even know if it's worth my time to say anything about it. I don't know if I'm morally obligated to say something about it. And the fact that professors have this overbearing power or whatever on the students, regardless of what people think, right? A professor's personal opinion of their students affects their grade and affects everything about them and stuff. It's like, I don't want to even have anything to do with this. I'm just going to do my work and succeed and be done with it, you know? And it's, oh man. And you see them cheating in the classes that people typically don't care about, right? In music school, people typically don't care about your form and analysis class, your theory classes, counterpoint, music history.
Those are the best.
That's
like,
what I'm saying. But
For
Right?
real.
Let's be honest. We had theory class together, Jacob.
Yep.
I never really bothered you about it. I wanted to know it. To
Yeah.
know it, I would have cheated had you given me the answer, because that steals the whole journey away from you, right? And when I see those kids cheating, I'm like, you're not gonna know this.
Yeah, they're not. Well, they're not getting far anyway. So
And
it's like that's the
that
take
is
for me. That's the
the
takeaway.
most real thing someone has said. They're not getting far anyway.
well, you know what's funny is most of them, I think, end up taking the safe route. And this is no insult to education majors. And of course, Bryan, you are an education major, but music education majors, they don't need to know anything about, 12-tone rows. They're not teaching anyone 12-tone rows and matrices or whatever, right? It's just not practical to them. They don't need to really know even 18th century counterpoint. I fully believe that counterpoint skills in general are some of the most fundamental and important
They
as
are.
far as
They are.
music goes. But go ahead.
Whenever you guys transferred out, there was actually a new teacher, and for theory 1 and 2, and she actually started teaching her theory 1 and 2 counterpoint.
Boom. There you
Like
go.
I would have loved that, but like I'm getting that in my lesson now. But like ever since the new teacher kind of came in, like she started teaching the counterpoint. I was like, man, that's lucky.
Yeah, and it's so tied in to what you learn in theory 1 through 3, right? Which is just the 4-part, 4-voice writing. It's so interesting how counterpoint is often taught as like a junior or even senior level course at times, because really it's the material that's integrated in what you were doing as a freshman and sophomore. And I remember the first couple weeks of counterpoint were like a review of theory 3, and I was so bored, and I was like, what even is this class? I was like, and then the other students in the class didn't know the information. They had forgotten it or whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and let them, like relearn. And I don't try to say that pretentiously or whatever, but that's like how it went down. And I'm like, they should be taught side by side so people really get this information, Yeah. And we don't have to explain secondary dominance again,
My favorite chords.
Some of the best.
Yep.
Wow, we have not even gotten to a topic yet.
Good.
Yeah.
I still have a question for Sarah about Chopin.
Yes.
So you were talking about undertaking Chopin, and while I was doing my research behind rubato and kind of the genesis of that, Chopin comes up as a key figure, also with ornamentation. He comes up as a highlight figure, and Marshall Harrison, the guy who's having that master class in Texas City, cites him for the guy who invented legato, essentially, and the connection of the notes. And so while I was looking up Chopin, they said he kind of has 2 ways of doing rubato, in that in his journals he would write about the way he would sometimes do it is keeping the bass very steady, but allowing the melody to arrive, anticipating just a touch early or just a touch late, right?
Yeah.
But that the way he achieves it is not slowing the whole piece down. It's keeping one thing steady and manipulating the melody against steady bass. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
That is actually a really great point, because that's the thing that I've struggled with the most is, like, I've throughout this whole audition process, I've been taking lessons with other teachers, and I was taking a lesson with one teacher, and he kept saying, keep the beat steady, but also, be rubato. And I was like, how? Like, this is impossible. And it was like just trying to keep like a steady sense of time without completely changing the direction of the piece as far as tempo goes. Yeah, that's been the most difficult thing. And like, if you want to go and listen to that ballade, I recommend it, because you'll hear so much of that, and it's from the get-go. Like, the last part of the piece is like an etude, but the beginning, like maybe first 7-8 minutes of it, it's like just melodic, just butter. It's beautiful.
Butter, yes.
Yes, it's just, yeah. I mean, the rubato and then keeping the pulse, that's a really difficult task. Yeah, so yeah, good point. I like that.
That was one of the key points. Jacob?
Yeah, so funny that we are talking about Chopin. So I just had my first piano lesson. I'm in my very final piano lessons, not like basic piano class for piano. Yeah. But I'm doing piano lessons, and I just got my piece this week, and he said he wanted to challenge me, but he also really wants me to relax because I'm super tense while playing. And I remember other teachers telling me that too. I like play something and I play it really well, and then it's like, can you lower your shoulders? And I'm like, wow, I was holding those there that whole time. Oh, what? So he gave me Chopin, and I knew he would give me Chopin, and I think it's a waltz. I think it's Opus 70 number 2 or something. But anyway, so he gave me that, and he was talking to me about all the exact same stuff, the same stuff everyone talks about when they mention Chopin, and was talking about how a lot of the motion and the movements and even like repeats and stuff in Chopin music is not necessarily even there, because he was such an improviser. He would play stuff by like memory in his own brain, right? And would improvise the parts and stuff. And so sometimes you'll see scores of pieces of his that are like basically the same thing, but some have like extra stuff, and it was like different transcribed versions and stuff. But they're basically the same thing, but then there'll be like some that have these repeats that are slightly altered, or some with even slightly different harmony, but it's the same piece, right? And it's because he like improvised stuff. And it's so interesting talking about the rubato aspect of it, and thinking about, Brain, what you've been working on with the Baroque stuff. I almost think about like the keeping the tempo right underneath, but also doing it like kind of free of time. To me, makes me think of like, when you're like trying to learn a piece of music and you got that click like in your ear, and then you're just trying to make the chord changes, right? And so like you're making the changes like on the downbeats, but then you're like, here's the melody, and you like fub through it real quick because the next downbeat's about to come, and you're supposed to hit that chord change, right? It's almost like that goes against everything that we're supposed to do as musicians, because we're supposed to play music correctly the way it's written, right? And then it's like, it's almost
how
like
do you manipulate it?
Go a little bit back towards that way, right? With this type of rubato music, like we're still hitting the downbeats, but that stuff in between is a little fudged almost, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how it's like bad technique, but done with experience, and so it sounds good or something.
That's yeah.
You said something funny about like the second and third and fourth passes in Chopin. And one of the examples I always think of is his probably most popular, and I have it queued up here, Opus 9 number 2 in E flat, right? A Bad Santa. Yeah. And every time the theme comes back, he's ornamenting it so much more and more and more, right? Which is why I was really,
it's like Baroque. You can draw that parallel to the Baroque music. Is it's different every single time. There's not ever, you don't ever play it the same way twice.
Thank you for saying the word Baroque, because I was really, really considering playing my Baroque lute music where the first pass is pretty straight. no ornaments.
Just introduce
and then
it.
on the repeats, doing all the trills and all the rubato and all the ornaments. And that really is something I've been weighing heavily, you know?
So it's, and I know we still haven't gotten to a topic, but actually it's interesting how, like, we're talking about that with play it straight and then add extra stuff later. That's actually a very, very basic compositional technique. I've been taught by one of my preferred composition professors, I guess, that you never repeat anything the same way, ever. Because people have already heard it, right? So when you're doing A and B, and then A prime and B prime, and Brain, I think you can like see this in like something else when I gave it to you, right? It goes back to the basic like chord progression and the basic guitar thing, but then like something that I'll do is change the meter to trip you up, right? Like the first time maybe it's all in 4, and then maybe even the B section's all in 4, but then the A prime and B prime, it's like in 4, and then one of the measures is cut an 1/8 note short and it's in 7/8. Right? And then maybe one of the measures is added 2 extra 1/8 notes and you're in 10/8, right? And it's like, what am I feeling here? Like, I know I recognize this melody, and so I still enjoy it, but it's just off enough that my interest is still there, and I'm like, what is happening right now? You know? And that's kind of what that ornamentation stuff basically is, because no one wants to hear the same thing twice exactly the same way.
Yeah.
You got to keep their interest.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Jonathan, any thoughts on that?
I know.
Look, okay, I'm thinking back to when I was at San Jac. I'm like, yeah, this is why I chose a different degree. I just wasn't, I wasn't feeling all the nerd part. I was like, I just want to play the saxophone. I mean, I have to do part. Right?
Yeah, I respect that.
That's how most people are, right? I think Theory 1 classes, you lose about half the people once it goes to Theory 2, because people are like, I hate Theory.
Well, do you think Miles Davis could do part writing?
No.
Who?
What?
Exactly. Who?
Miles Davis, Jonathan. You know, one of the most famous jazz players of all time.
I didn't hear him because I talked at the same time. But I had a question about the Baroque thing. Because you're saying it's like when you go in rounds and rounds playing it over, and you're saying that it sounds like it's 7/8 or something. Like it sounds out of time. You're not saying it is out of time, right?
No, it's not out of time.
No, his specific piece he was saying is intentionally put 7/8 measures into 4/4 pattern.
But he was talking about the rubato thing, right? How it feels out. That's such a weird concept, honestly. The idea of something being in time and then not out of time. Like, what is in time anyway? We're not robots. We don't play in time technically anyway, right?
You know what's really interesting is I was actually just at a performance in lab, and there was a saxophone player, and I think for the past 2 performances that he's done in lab, he hasn't utilized the accompanist. He uses, I think it's called like snap music or something like that. But it's basically a program where a bunch of accompanied pieces are pre-programmed into it. So, he plays his part and then the piano part comes in. And I was really kind of torn, and I was like, it was a great performance or whatever, but it was so artificial. And I was like, at some point you need to have a person playing with you because there's that connection, and you're not a robot. Like, you're obviously not a robot, but you're playing with the robot. And so to me, it just, everyone loved it, but I was just sitting here like, I'm not sold, because I want to see an actual connection between two performers, not.
Did you tell him? Did you say?
No, I didn't. I didn't have the balls to do that.
You told him now. We're sharing this on his Facebook page.
Oh my gosh.
Great.
As if I know any other people at that school still.
Yeah, I don't know anybody.
No, this is a completely new person. But yeah, I'm not totally sold on. I mean, it's a great practice, thing, like if you're not going to perform. But if you're performing, I say like stay away from that artificial crap, because I'm like, build. Yeah, I don't know. Yes.
No, this is not the I'm cutting you off symbol. This is the finish your thought in the. All right, now that we are back and everyone is in different positions again, I actually intentionally disconnected us so that everyone could have a chance in every square, right? How does it feel to be in these different squares, guys?
I love it.
Cool. You have no
I
idea where
feel
you are.
shorter
No, I
and
don't.
or taller.
This angle's
I'm
my
not sure if I've
angle.
moved down or up. So,
Bryan, you have actually officially been in every corner now. You are in the bottom
Nice.
left now.
champion.
So what I was gonna say, so we were talking about saxophone player playing with what we will consider a track accompaniment on stage, right? So, and you said you wanted the performer to have some other musicians to play with because it's too robotic and weird and stuff. Here's my question, because Bryan and I both have experience. I play every single week at a church that uses tracks, click, we all have in-ears, everything. How many performers do you need for it to no longer seem robotic to you? This is a specific question to you, Sarah Bryan. And then how do you feel about tracks at all, like in general?
So so the first question is how many, because it was just saxophone and piano. To me, that was like bare naked, like
That's 50%.
Yeah, 50%. So whenever you
yeah.
start adding more people, like in jazz band, our drummer, he keeps a click in his ear, right, to keep the time for us. At that point, like, it's fine because you have so many people relying on this one person. And if this one person falls out, then you all fall out. So, to us, it doesn't sound, it's not artificial in that way, which I'm totally like not opposed to. But whenever, you have just you're supposed to have two performers. It's like, he's only doing 50% of the work. He's not interacting one-on-one. In a band, you're interacting with different people. You're listening to so many different parts, right? And it doesn't become I'm tagging along on just this one person, right? So for me, it's like when it boils down to two people and only one of them is a real person, that's when it kind of becomes a problem for me. But tracks in general, again, I'm not opposed to them. It's just like, for me, I'm like my own accompanist. So, I've never had to deal with, booking an accompanist or anything like that. But practice techniques, that's great. Even in the performance setting, with a band or several performers, that's fine. It's just, again, if it's literally just two people and only one of them is doing what they're supposed to and the other thing is just there, then for me, that's a problem. Yeah.
Well, we all have something, but Bryan's technically the next in.
Dang it.
I cede my time to Jonathan.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna say that is like such a music person thing to do, right? Like imagine like you're out playing basketball, but they're all those kids know how to play, and you can't just ask one of them to come play with you. You're just like you're a little shy, and like it's kind of like a music person thing to do. I'm gonna play with the track. I mean, I'm good anyway.
I don't have friends anyway, right?
Yeah, I
Need
mean,
some now. Jacob,
Okay.
what's up?
So it is interesting, the 50-50%. There would be some interplay if we added one additional performer, right? So it would be 33, 33, 33.
Exactly.
But what is the difference between a saxophone player doing it and a vocalist doing it? Because a vocalist doing it, it's essentially just karaoke.
Wow.
Very little difference.
Shots. Shots.
Profound.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's profound or not. It's just that karaoke is like kind of an accepted thing. But if you were at a house party and you were like, let me get my horn out, and you pull out Mozart's Concerto for whatever, and I'll play the solo, and you have it playing on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
Nice. You can do that on my
Is there a difference?
Not much.
Honestly, I don't see the difference. I mean, one of them is like a classical karaoke, which we should totally like
bring back.
Yeah.
We'll own the bar.
Yeah.
No one will come.
Classical karaoke.
I mean, that's essentially how I practice all my tracks, by the way, because accompanists are expensive. So the easiest way to do it is to have a semi-karaoke track, right? And then
the thing with me is like, they don't have to pay for the accompanist there. Like, okay, so if you have to pay out of pocket and you don't have that kind of money, use the track. Like, I can understand that. But, this accompanist is provided for free. And when this person has made deliberate comments against accompanists, and then goes out of their way to use Snaptrack on every performance, like, to me, it's no longer a question of like, what do they prefer? It's just, they're just kind of being uppity, I don't know. That's my experience with this person. Every experience with this person.
Well, I feel that. And at a university level, pretty sure none of that stuff flies. You have to have an accompanist all the time, and you have to pay for an accompanist. And depending on the school, some of them provide their own accompanist, but you have to pay for that one. At my school, we have to find our own, essentially. And there's like 6 or 7 who are like the standard ones that are there all the time, working for different instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Are they expensive? Like, are
$160 in my school
for a semester?
What about you? No, for a recital.
Oh,
is it for every performance that they charge $160, Brain? And that's just for the recitals. Does that include rehearsals?
Yeah.
Wait, does that include lab or studio performances?
Do you have to pay $160 every time?
Get someone for your recital who will shed your music for your recital only.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's pretty fair, to be honest. I would pay anyone in this chat that.
Yeah,
especially Sarah.
That's totally reasonable. You should just hire her.
I'll do it for just $16.
She'll do it for $159.
That's $80 an hour.
Yeah, for real.
Rehearsal, not even an hour-long recital.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, aside from all the hours and hours of practice. But
yeah, let's be honest. I'm paying for that too.
So Sarah, my wife, I think she pays somewhere near that, about $160 for the semester or something, and that's for the accompanist to show up during voice lessons, the accompanist to perform in studio, and the accompanist to perform in convocation lab type things, right? For us here, it's a per event thing. So some of them are about like $15 for 30 minutes of their time, whether that's in a lesson or in a studio class or whatever. Some of them are more like $25 per. Typically, by the end of the semester, I've probably spent about $160 or something. Depending on what it is, because weekly lessons, they're there every lesson, and then like 3 studio performances or something, a voice division recital, and then my juries. So maybe I end up spending like $200 or something, but I just count it as part of the fees for school, right? Like, school is expensive. I'm not buying a textbook for my voice lessons. There's my textbook,
Right.
So the whole reason I brought that up was Sarah said something about a human interaction happening.
Yeah.
And one of the guys, and we all know this, at any school with 7 or 8 accompanists, there are a top tier 2 or 3, and then there are the whole secondary level people, right? And I've been watching, in my opinion, the guy who is the top of the top best accompanist, and I'm going to drop his name, Dr. Pitts, Dr. James Pitts. He plays exceptionally, and what he does well is matching up with an instrumentalist or a vocalist. Because we all know that if the downbeat is here, there is a delay where the instrumentalist takes a breath, starts moving the reed, and finally the note comes alive.
Yeah,
Right.
It's an attack delay, right?
Yeah, there's an attack delay. And he has this uncanny ability to watch a vocalist breathe, or watch a instrumentalist breathe, or, you know, a violinist back bow, and just know exactly where they're going to be. And I had an epiphany the first day of jazz band this semester, when we have this little warm-up thing we play. And I have to play on the beat with the band, and I've never done it to my standard well. There's a really special thing. The band's very late, you know, from the beat. And I have this habit of playing right on the downbeat and being actually ahead of the horn players.
Yeah.
And yeah, after watching Dr. Pitts for 2 years, I finally figured out what he's doing. And you just watch right where you think the beat is, you wait a little longer, wait just a bit longer, then finally when you think you're about ready to play, wait a tiny bit longer, then play.
Yeah.
And boom, you're right in with
that's the thing. It's like, because there's so many of those moments in there, and it's also like that's like one aspect of it. The other aspect is like, you know, my teacher gave me a perfect example. She accompanied this clarinet player, I believe, on a recital, and they completely skipped a beat during this insane piece, and she caught that and jumped the beat, and they just went on flawlessly. So that's another thing. It's like playing with an artificial track. They're going to get it right every single time. Well, what about the performer, you know, the human performer who could accidentally miss a beat, and then all of a sudden, like, they don't have, you know, they don't have that other person to, you know, help them through.
that. Way better than they really are. And that's way better than being a backing track. That is being an accompanist, and that is being someone who's like listening and feeding back and interacting. And yeah, I can see why you felt a little bit robbed at the performance that was behind a track.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing, I mean, they tell like vocalists and stuff all the time that as the performer, you're the leader, right? So if you're playing with a track, the track's the leader, dude. Yeah. You're following a track. The accompanist is not following you at that point. And so it sways in tempo or anything, and that actually creates the exact opposite thing of what you want to happen. You don't want to be hesitant for the accompanist. You want them to just be right on with you.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll put this episode on his Facebook, and he's just gonna have to swallow the pill.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. All right. Let's just. I don't think we have time for a real topic, so let's go into the fake topic that Jonathan has, because I think that would be fun and relevant. If you don't know, you are watching this on February 2nd, 2020, which is the Super Bowl. Actually, by the way, since it's Super Bowl, before we go to this topic, Chiefs or Niners? Go around the circle.
Chiefs.
Jonathan. Chiefs.
Sarah?
Chiefs.
Yeah, Chiefs, me too.
I'm rooting for the
Can
Chiefs.
I
I don't
say-
want them 49ers.
Yeah.
Like,
Underdogs,
Yeah, I
bro.
don't like the 49ers.
yeah.
All right, I made a really interesting.
I'm just glad the Patriots aren't in it again.
Nope.
I thought the Texans were gonna win.
No, sorry.
So, all right, I have two things. I made a great inference. Like, so I was supposed to have a jazz band rehearsal today at 5 p.m. For anyone who doesn't know, the Super Bowl's at 5:30 today. And this is the only school on the whole campus where people do not care about athletics. They are willing to have a rehearsal right in the middle of the Super Bowl because I ain't watching anyway, right?
Exactly.
Like
That's so
musicians do not care about sports whatsoever. We'll have rehearsal, we'll practice right through the Super Bowl and just check Facebook for the winner.
True.
Right?
Literally me. That's what I'm doing. I'm taking a nap after this. I'm not watching.
I'm gonna do some homework.
I just want to go to a party just to have nachos. Like,
Yep, basically.
free food. Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. So I just thought that was so telling about the music folk. It's like we're so used to putting off things that most people do so that we can practice or do other nerd things, that the Super Bowl is just another one of those, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So telling.
And putting off all those things is totally not worth it, kids. Don't be a musician. Don't be a music major. It's not as cool as it looks.
Oh,
Not at all. Not
think
at all.
it's
The
cool.
best person in the room is the spectator, not the performer.
I was
The fly on the wall.
So I was thinking about this recently, just real quick. I was thinking about how, as a young, musician or person, thinking about how cool the musicians and stuff on stage were and the cliques that they were in and stuff. And I was like, wow, these guys are totally awesome. And then I realized that now that I'm in the clique and the scene and stuff, I'm like, we're not awesome. Like,
No.
this is lame.
This is the clique. This is the
That's what I'm
scene.
saying.
Oh,
Guys, I hate to break it to you, but this is not every music major
True.
in the world. We are a unique bunch here.
True.
True.
I agree.
Yeah, out of every college, how many of them even deal with the podcast? You know, I wanted to make
None
a
of
prediction, though, about the Super Bowl. Jonathan and I went to see the Chiefs versus the Texans in Houston.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he remembers this, but their players outclassed ours by a long shot. They would literally jump over a guy who was trying to tackle them and run and look back at the guy and keep running. Like, that guy's back there. Done deal. And they outclassed us in such a way that I'm convinced you're going to see at least one team perform really well. And if the 49ers have any fight in them, you're going to see two teams perform real well. But you're at least going to see one team outclass the other tonight. And here's
Ideally.
I wanted to here's my pocket. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the pocket. This is the little pocket in the jeans.
Ooh, you can't show skin on Twitch. Ooh.
Ooh,
Come on
too
now,
late.
Brain.
Dang.
Oh,
What on earth? Do you
Wow.
wash them with all of them in there?
Every time we do laundry, there are picks in the laundry because I forget. But I have about 20 picks that I play with every night, and I dump them over my amplifier. And if I want something thin, boom, it's there. If I want something for shred, it's there, right?
All right, but you have to like dig through them because you got a pile of them. I feel like you should be more organized, right? Have one of those
Have a
like
pick
little
book.
old lady like medicine things with like the pills.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
here's your lights, here's your jazz picks, here's your really heavy gauge in case you're playing bass that night, you know?
Yep. And I ordered color coordinated. So a tip for all you guitar players, if you don't want to have to look at them, get them color coordinated. Heavy is blue, medium's
Wow.
purple, light is white.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Yep. And I rarely even use this, but I use that all day. Ooh,
Do you have-
one more plug. $5 for 50 mechanical pencils. Anyone who's writing a bunch. Because here's what I found. Inform an analysis to write between the lines and spaces with a normal number 2
You
pencil.
need a point
You get
five,
about
baby.
3 notes in your $2. But this is an all-day, sharpened edge. So I bought 5 for $50 at Walmart. That's a good deal. It's a
Thank
good
you,
deal.
Bryan.
Yeah, no. Yeah, good. Yeah, I love good fresh pencils. I'm a 0.5 person. I can't do 0.7. It's too thick. 0.5 all day.
Then you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Because the only reason we use pencils is for writing music anyway. Who actually handwrites anything anymore, right? The only reason you would ever do... Honestly, I don't even know why I'm handwriting music anymore in classes. I'm like, I do everything in notation software anyway. Why can't I do all your homework assignments in notation software? Why do you have to read my scribbles?
Bro, the real G's do it in marker. But that is such a commitment. And we all know that having a marker where one touch is a whole note head, and then you go wee for the stem, that is a really good thing. But what a commitment. I could never use marker on a page in good conscience.
Yeah,
No, I'm going to have to go correct something.
I put marker all over my scores that like form and analysis. Basically, I have a stack of scores that have highlighter on everything. Like they are the most colorful scores you'll ever see. And it's just like that, but that's different than like writing an actual note. That's a commitment for life.
Yep, and there is and this is on the cover, I think, of A Kind of Blue. It's a Miles Davis thing. He says there's a form of Japanese art where you have a thin tapestry and a marker, and you put it on there and you start writing. But as soon as you lift your pen from the canvas, it rips. And the whole art piece is destroyed. So the second you start drawing, you're committed to the improvisatory, in the moment kind of art. You circle back your art. You can't go outside the edge or you rip the thing. You can't lift your pen or you lift it. So you're just locked into the moment till you run out of ink.
That's like music though. Like if you start and you just stop and you like make a mistake, then it's like you just fall apart.
You ripped it. And that was something that inspired him on the Kind of Blue album.
I thought you were saying like the album art for Kind of Blue, and I'm like, isn't it just like a picture of Miles? And I thought you were saying like it was like a ripped, yeah. So no, it's just a picture of Miles. There's nothing impressive there. All right, let's go to the actual Super Bowl topic. Jonathan, what was your Super Bowl topic?
We
got 15 minutes. Let's go.
What is the Super Bowl of music? I have my answer, but I need y'all's before I say mine.
Yeah, mine is to me, which no longer exists, unfortunately, is the Prix de Rome, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you would go to Rome and you would have to compose a fugue? What would you have to compose? You'd have to compose a fugue, a bunch of other things that are really difficult.
I thought it was like 4 different things in different styles or something.
And if you win, you basically the one thing that I remember for sure is you could go to any concert hall in Europe, and they would have 2 tickets under your name. So say you wanted to go to a concert in Vienna, you have 2 tickets that are held for you. So that was like one of the big perks about winning the Prix de Rome. But there were also like other, I want to say monetary, prizes. But like to me, I think that was the big one because it was something that, Debussy won, Ravel didn't win, but it was just like this huge thing. And then it just kind of dissipated. But like, for me, that's the Super Bowl of music, at least compositionally. For pianists, it's the Clyburn. The
Van Cliburn for sure.
Van Cliburn was actually, I think he was born and raised in Fort Worth. And TCU is actually building a concert hall dedicated to Van Cliburn because that's where they hold the Clyburn competition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's a fun fact, which is, one of the places that I'm auditioning to, which is actually next weekend. So they have, baller piano program.
I can't believe we didn't talk about your auditions yet.
You could be a horn prop.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brain.
Oh my! I think the Super Bowl the music from is.
Wait.
Why does this happen? He just randomly becomes a robot sometimes.
Am I back?
Yes,
okay, there we go.
I'm back. Am I back or are y'all laughing?
You're back. You're back.
I believe the Super Bowl of the music realm is American Idol because it's televised. It doesn't really matter, and we all know the best people are not there. The best people are at home shedding.
Wow. Deep.
Okay, what about classical music now?
Ooh. I have no clue. No clue, because I'm not involved in classical music.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was quick. I don't know the right words, but so you're saying like there's better like football players at home just hanging out?
There's probably stronger people, better athletes. There's people. Am I a robot again?
No. It's just funny to me to think he has a point. There are not totally ripped like football players, like 7 feet tall, 450 pounds, just sitting around like.
I'm better than
They
that.
could kick 180 yards, but they're not playing.
There are. And the funniest thing is there are people on the NFL line who get paid to just be 400 pounds.
Yeah, true.
It's like, that's not a fucking skill.
Hey, if you're 400 pounds, that is a skill.
Yeah,
that's a life commitment.
Yeah.
There were days they woke up going, I'm not hungry, but you know what? For the team. Right? For the team. We gotta win this bowl.
I wonder if they have like a mandated like 4 pizzas for dinner every night, like 4 like their breakfast is a whole 60 thing of eggs from Walmart, right?
Oh my gosh.
Right.
I like that. Good answer.
What about you, Jacob?
So man, Brain, I really liked your answer, and I'm gonna use it to make my answer sound a little better. I hate to say this because it's such a weird way that it works. But let's talk about the Grammys, because you're right in that it's televised and it's this big thing, and it's for like famous people, and the only people who actually get to attend in the audience are extraordinarily rich, similar to the Super Bowl, right? So Jacob Collier has won tons of Grammys. There are tons of classical musicians and stuff who have won Grammys. There's all different kinds of Grammys and stuff, and so it covers all different areas of music. But the question is, does it actually mean anything? And I mean, one could make the argument that the Super Bowl doesn't mean anything, but I heard something recently. I don't recall exactly the details. Something about. Oh, it was Michelle Obama won a Grammy for reading an audio book that she didn't even write.
What are you doing here?
So she didn't even write the audio book, but she read it or something like that. And I don't even know if this is true. It was one of those Facebook things. But they had mentioned how they're like, well, Grammys are completely meaningless because what's supposed to be the highest achievement in music has now been given to something that's not even music and wasn't even created by the person. It was just literally the timbre of their voice that utilized this. And so it raised the question, and someone had sent this to me, and my reply was, well, among musicians, we all know that the Grammys are not prestigious. And among musicians, there are a lot of other things that people see as prestigious that we know are not prestigious. But if we know that they're not prestigious and everyone else thinks they're prestigious, doesn't that kind of make them prestigious?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
unfortunately, John Mayer said it well. He's like, if you think you write a hit song and you put it out there and it just duds, who was right? You or them?
Man.
It's like you're way outnumbered. You said it was a hit and they went, nah.
I guess the Grammys are the Super Bowl then. Because we all know there's 500-pound guys sitting at home that could do better jobs at football. Jonathan, what's your answer?
Okay. It's a steel pan.
Gosh. I shouldn't even
Steel
have
pan?
laughed. It was funny both times. It would
That's
make a
it.
Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's the.
It is.
Can you just Can you just imagine eating out of a steel pan though?
Man, Professor Ismaz would kill you.
He would.
Because is he mad?
I would eat out of a steel pan if we cooked the dish in the steel pan, right? It
I wonder how that
actually
would-
seems like in a pinch you could cook in it.
Like a cast iron? So instead of getting iron in your food, you get steel in your food or
Like
something?
a Dutch oven, but
Steel doesn't get in your food. Like stainless steel.
Oh, that's true.
Cookware?
Stainless steel pans. That's
Yeah.
right. That's the thing.
And steel is a composite of iron and ore. So you're getting iron in your mouth either way.
But then you're...
Iron ore.
oh, okay,
No.
enough,
Don't you dare.
enough.
Okay,
I have
but
a
then
real
you
answer.
then you detune the steel pan by cooking in it. And we all know those are a pain in the butt to tune. So...
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I have a real answer.
Oh,
What's
I
your
thought that
real
was a
answer?
real answer.
Oh, I mean, I have a super real answer. The Thelonious Monk Institute Jazz Competition.
Wasn't
It's
that
only
just really
thing-
recently?
Huh?
Didn't that just get held really recently? Wasn't that what Brain was sharing?
No, that was the Jack Rudin Big Band competition, which I would say is even more so.
Oh. Well, I think I only saw saxophone players on this one, so I'm biased.
Oh, well, I had a biased answer too.
Oh. Well.
I actually
Wow.
I think y'all's answers are better than mine because Grammys are too far stretching and they
Yeah.
cover everything. So the Grammys are more
They
like
do.
the Olympics, whereas you saying just
Yeah.
jazz or American Idol or something, that's just football.
Yeah.
Or Prix de Rome, just composition, basically, right?
Yeah.
Ooh,
So
can I
I
soap
lost.
off?
You guys all won. I lost. Rip.
Nice. Where's
I'm
our
gonna
money?
soap-
Go Chiefs!
Go Chiefs.
All right.
Anyways,
Sarah,
competitions are all biased
What?
in the end anyways.
You're right.
I have kind of a closing, overarching question. Who is your favorite pianist? Who is your favorite all-time band? In
That's two questions.
it is favorite
Is-
pianist, favorite ensemble, all time.
Okay. I'm gonna answer the easy one as far as pianists go. Yuja Wang.
You Joanne. Okay.
Yeah. Just because she's like, I don't know, she's just incredible. Her technique is flawless. If you ever want to watch anything she performs, she's great at everything. Like, I think she does every single composer great. Like Daniel Barenboim, he does Beethoven great, but Yuja just does every single one of the composers great. As far as bands, gosh, like, are we talking like jazz or just anything?
Classic rock, anything you
Oh
like.
my gosh. Hang on, let me check my phone. Because
All right, I'm gonna give an honorary mention.
yeah, both of his piano
But
concertos. Yeah.
There's a story about her sight reading some performance. Pretty striking.
Oh yeah. I think right now I'd have to say the band that I've been listening to is either the Beatles or Queen. Like those are kind of like my go-tos. Like any day I'll be playing either or.
Beatles and Queen.
Beatles and Queen.
And Eagles. I mean,
Yeah.
you love the hits.
Yeah, I do.
What about Van Halen?
I don't listen to them very much. I need to do that.
You should.
Yeah,
You should. Van Halen's a great pianist. He played clarinet, and his biggest hit, Jump, is on piano.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Jump.
And
Yeah.
tapping is a pianist-like technique.
Yeah.
He's a pioneer of tapping.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be listening to him more then.
Jacob, what's up?
I don't even know if I want to say this, but I don't know how many people are going to watch it or not. This is kind of a big reveal that I haven't revealed to anyone. I don't know if I'm being selected for it, but it's likely. Our choir is singing with the Eagles in March.
No way. That's awesome.
We're singing like 9 Measures of Awe in one of their songs. So
Wow.
we are literally... We are going to be behind stage or underneath the stage. They rented choir robes. We're going to be lifted up and just be like, oh, for like 9 measures, be lifted back down. And that's the gig.
Wow.
Oh.
Again,
Nice.
I can't call it official because only 22 people are being selected, but it's 22 out of like 26. So chances are I'm selected based on voice part alone because they know me, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I would pad that up on a resume.
100%. Yeah. Performed. Yeah. Definitely.
Performed at X Arena with blank name of the Eagles. Don Henley, Joe Walsh of the Eagles.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just for one song. So.
Just for one song. And one, like, not even a word.
Yep, just a vowel.
A syllable. Imagine them asking that in an interview. So we see you performed with the Eagles.
Yep, sang 9 whole measures. Not 7, not 8, but 9 measures. Yeah.
No, tell them, yeah, it was 9 long ones. They're going to be like, ears? Be like...
Oh, yeah, that's good.
You guys are such a good time, but it's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock, and this interface has crashed like 6 times. I'm so sorry for the people watching. You guys didn't know that it crashed so many times. I got to solve this issue. It's never crashed this many times before. Sarah, I'm sorry that we did not get to the auditions. I wanted to talk about the auditions, but whatever.
It's totally cool. It's totally cool.
She'll tell us more about them once they've happened.
Yeah.
Anyone want to plug yourselves?
Oh, yes. I'm playing at Crown Colony Country Club, the 4 C's in Lufkin, Texas on Valentine's Day.
Cool.
Crown Colony. Come out, have dinner. Here's some duet music with me and the great Felipe Hernandez.
Cool.
Nice. I'm playing with... I have a pretty big recital in May. I'm doing a lot of solo stuff, so I'm playing that Ballade, the Bach Partita, Mozart Sonata, maybe some Debussy and some more Chopin. And then I'm also doing a lot of jazz gigs. So
where is that? And what date is that recital?
The recital is going to be in Corbin Hall at St. Jack Central at 7 o'clock, May 7th, 2020. Just,
2020.
2020.
Brain has a recital on 4/20/2020.
Oh, actually, my recital was moved because of the incompetence of the student workers. Okay. Yeah, it was moved to April 22nd, 4/22/22, which is the birthday of my dear friend who lost his life at the age of 27.
Oh, wow.
About 4 months ago.
Oh, man.
And his ashes were finally spread on Saturday, yesterday.
Wow. That's
he
awesome.
is finally taken care of, and my recital's kind of going to be in honor to him. And one of the closing pieces here by Max Vanetz, the mixed media piece I was talking about, was one of his favorites.
That's good. Yeah.
I just have to do it.
Yeah.
Because experimental techniques involved, and The fact that I get to play souped up electric guitar with mixed media.
Yeah.
Super cool. I have a recital May 2nd at UTA in Irons Recital Hall, 3:30 p.m. All my compositions. Boom.
Nice.
You can find me anywhere on social media at JL Clodfelter on Instagram. My website's not completely finished, but it actually is published. If any of y'all want to go look at it, it's not finished, thus don't judge it. JLClodfelter.com. You can find me on YouTube, JL Clodfelter, for all of my other shows, all of my music, everything like that. Where can they find you guys?
At home, not doing anything.
Being a football player at home, got it?
Yeah, no website. Just
All right, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and everything. Bryan Wondra. You know who it is. You know what it is.
Same. Only Facebook and Instagram, though.
All right, let me play this outro music. This outro music is the official mix recording of Haywire House, which has finally come in. So enjoy, and I'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
No.